Matt LaFleur seems to be agitated, distressed, angry at yesterday's performance. I am too. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Lombardi Time Brews, where I'm your host, John Delray. Today, we are looking at Packers versus Falcons, wrapping up this week. The week 2 matchup, Packers versus Falcons, took place down in Atlanta. And there's some things you may want to remember about this game, but there's some things you certainly don't want to. In fact, I've got about 7 of them here. 7 things that just went wrong, but also one very, very large redeeming positive for this game. And look, I'm going to start out by saying that we all knew coming into the year that this was a young team. We were expecting the ups and downs from Jordan Love, all these young wide receivers. And when you have this many injuries, sure, you expect it even more. I mean, look at the experience that was injured. Aaron Jones, Dave Bakhtiari, by all accounts, your number 1 wide receiver, Christian Watson. And then to lose Elgton Jenkins mid-game. Oof, a devastating blow to the offensive line. That's a lot of experience, a lot of leadership that suddenly isn't on the field. But there's a lot more to this than that, because part of the reason this loss was distressing for Packer fans and for the Packers themselves was because it wasn't just the young guys. I, for one, as well as pretty much everyone I know, is ready for the ups and downs because of the young guys. I'm not personally ready for an up and down performance from Jair or Rashawn Gary, who's on a snap count, or the rest of the offensive line, or, even Kenny Clark, who played more snaps than he probably should have. But even as his play went down as the game continued on. See, those are the players that we shouldn't necessarily have to brace for up and down from. They should be the steady contributors, right? As the young guys are running around them learning, like defensively in LVN, or on the defensive line, Wooden and Brooks. See, so the overall point here is the Packers showed that this is the good. The Packers showed that without Watson, Bach, Jenkins, Jones, that they're good enough to hang with a team that very well might win their division. Without all of that talent, without all of that experience, they're good enough to still hang. The negative here is, again, in spite of all of that, they should have won. And that's the disappointing part. Because if they would have gone into this game missing all of those injured guys, right? And they lose by 10, and they lose by 14, 20, then all right. Yeah, the odds were too great. Too much talent off the field for the Packers. But that wasn't the case. Yes, Atlanta did some incredibly good things, especially schematically with their offense. And Bijan Robinson does appear to have every trait of a generational type running back. And yet, in spite of all of that, this loss falls on a number of decisions, a number of plays with the lack of execution, a number of playing scared moments that ultimately cost the Packers a chance to be 2-0, in spite of a great, tremendous start from who was supposed to be the biggest question mark on the entire roster. So let's go through these 7. Let's go through these items that I consider to be the biggest factor, the biggest things to talk about, the biggest things to break down, and what are probably also the 7 biggest factors in the Packers losing this game, before rounding it out on a happy note and looking at the quarterback, looking at the positive, looking at what went right. So, number 1, David Bakhtiari. Now, Jones, Watson, we knew Saturday night that they probably weren't going to play. That was leaked by Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport. Like, that was the talk, right? And even that was a little bit of a surprise because Christian Watson did get some practices in. Aaron Jones doesn't necessarily need to practice. The odds were against him because he hadn't practiced. But there was still a glimmer of hope. And then all of a sudden, Saturday night, it came down that neither one of them was going to play. I said, okay, that's all right. Now the game plan needs to be simple, win in the trenches, don't turn the ball over. All right, we got it. And then all of a sudden, Sunday morning, oh, David Bakhtiari isn't going to play either. Okay. Winning in the trenches just got harder. I think we'll still be fine, but it got a little bit harder without the all-world left tackle. And the thing here is, there was a question yesterday. David Bakhtiari is one of the most outspoken players in the National Football League about how NFL games should not be occurring on turf. And that only grew exponentially, and Bakhtiari got even louder when the Aaron Rodgers news came down last week. So there was a valid question. And we know from David Bakhtiari's past press conferences that David Bakhtiari's knee takes longer to recover coming off turf. He has great difficulty playing on turf with that knee. So all of a sudden now he's not playing in the first turf game of the year. And it's a relatively logical train of thought to be like, oh, they're holding him out because of turf. Or on a more negative side of, is he refusing to play because it's on turf? Or maybe worst of all, is that knee still not reliable to play week in and week out? And so there were all of these questions throughout the course of yesterday. And after the game, Matt LaFleur's press conference didn't exactly help, right? Because the reporters kind of pressed on him, and LaFleur basically said, yeah, he's hurt. And they're like, really? And he basically responded with, yeah, it's been 2 years. We're still doing this. We don't need to talk about it. Yeah, we kind of do, Matt. We kind of do. I know you don't want to, but we do kind of need to discuss whether the all-world left tackle can actually play ever. And I've been a very staunch defender of David Bakhtiari, no doubt about it. I have been, and I do still believe he's one of the best left tackles in the game. But organizationally, as a franchise, it is very difficult to move forward when so much of your cap space, so much of your game planning is wrapped up in a guy that you don't know day in and day out. Is he actually going to be able to perform his job or not? And no, it's not his fault. If the knee is swelling up, if it's inflamed, if it's whatever, it's not his fault. But the Packers still need to be able to operate. And what we've learned today, being Monday, with Matt LaFleur's press conference just a little while ago, Matt LaFleur mentioned that there was swelling in the knee. So it's not the turf thing. It's not Bakhtiari protesting the game. No, it maybe is the worst answer of all. There's still fluid in the knee. There's still swelling. There's still inflammation. There's still problems in the knee. And this could go on for the rest of David Bakhtiari's career, no matter how long that is. And that is distressing, of course, personally for him, but of course, organizationally for the Packers, for the fans who don't know whether one of the best players on the team is going to be out there or not. So this ultimately is a massive negative. And something that really needs to be figured out, not just week over week, but for the long term. Dave Bakhtiari has 1 year left on his deal in Green Bay, and it is at a very, very high cap number. Last I looked, I believe it's about $40 million. So something needs to get figured out here. Basically, the hope is that this was an anomaly. The swelling goes down, and we see David Bakhtiari out there routinely for the rest of the year. The only question that, of course, we can't possibly know at this time is that more of a pipe dream? Or is it an actual possibility? Let's tie in here to the injury to Elgton Jenkins. This is kind of the other news of the day. Elgton Jenkins left the game early yesterday with a knee injury. Yeah, with Dave Bakhtiari already out, that's less than ideal. And we come to learn after the game that it probably is an MCL sprain, which, takes, like, depending on your Google research, which one you want to trust, you're looking like 2 to 4-ish weeks. Unless it's torn longer. But if we're just talking sprain, then 2 to 4-ish weeks. But then today, Rob Demovsky got to talk to Elgton Jenkins. Elgton Jenkins apparently has a very large knee brace on that knee. Did get some scans today, and Elgton Jenkins said, I don't believe it's going to end my season. That's a far cry from 2 to 4 weeks, man. So, and of course, like, he said that's a good thing, right? He said it's not going to end my season, but nonetheless, here we are, where even season ending was a possibility. So are we still looking at an extended absence? Ruh-roh. As a consequence of that, Matt LaFleur talked at his press conference about he and his staff are going to be talking tonight about what the plan is for the left guard position on Sunday versus the Saints. Is it just going to be Sean Ryan? Maybe give him a chance. Is it going to be Royce Newman, who filled in for Jenkins during the game yesterday and actually kind of sort of performed okay? Or is this going to be the great line reshuffle? Kick Zach Tom inside, put Rasheed Walker at right tackle next week instead of left, assuming David Bakhtiari can go. But what if David Bakhtiari can't go again? Then you put Yash at left, and then you see the problems. Thankfully, the Packers have tremendous offensive line depth. They really do, that they can adjust and weather the storm. But certainly the more guys that go out from Matt LaFleur's acclaimed best five, the worse that this gets for the Packers. And the dominoes are beginning to fall pretty quick. Number two, how about some of the play calling in the fourth quarter for the offense? Yeah, I mean, it was less than ideal. Now, the rest of this episode, I'm not going to dive in to a whole bunch of like advanced stats. Are they out there? Yeah, totally. But like, this didn't feel like a game that you really need to dive into the advanced stats and just look at the data and the numbers. Nah, this looked like a game that we could see pretty plainly what was going on. And in the fourth quarter, the offense, let's use David Bakhtiari's phrase, went straight booty cheeks. It wasn't great. But one of the plays that I take issue with, and I really haven't seen much other conversation about this, but one of the plays that I really take issue with was it was 3rd and 9 for Green Bay. Need a first down. Got to keep chewing clock. Got to get down the field. 3rd and 9. And what does Green Bay do? A 4-yard curl to a guy who's blanketed in coverage. And here's my main issue with that play. Let's say that it works, okay? Ultimately, it fell for an incompletion, but let's say that pass is complete. Cool. It's a 4-yard curl on 3rd and 9. So the only way that play, and mind you, this isn't a play where Jordan Love danced around and like had to find somebody. This wasn't some extent thing. Nope. It was snap the ball, drop back, deliver. Like it was going to there. Got to believe that was the first read on the play. And if it wasn't the first read, it was still high up in the pecking order. So, okay, you're throwing to the guy over on the right side. And let's just say, hypothetically, that the ball doesn't fall incomplete, that it's completed. For about 4 yards out, but you need 9 for the first down. So if it's completed, he still has to get around the corner who's on him to get the first. So that means that when we need a 3rd and 9, or the Packers, I'm sorry, I try not to use the we all the time. But when a 3rd and 9 is needed, we're going to run a 4-yard curl and hope for the best. That's not a plan. That's a prayer. Not a good one. The next thing that I want to take a look at, of course, defensively. Now, this is the play that's being talked about maybe more than anywhere else online, but it's 3rd and 3. Falcons have the ball. They are beginning to really work down the Green Bay side of the field. It looks like they're going to be putting up points. And this is at the point of the game when the Packers cannot give up any more points. 3rd and 3. They take Bijan Robinson, their all-world rookie, march him out to the far right side, basically to play wide receiver. And the Green Bay Packers, defensive coordinator Joe Barry, line up against that with Devondre Campbell covering Bijan Robinson. Now, mind you, it's 3rd and 3, and where's Devondre Campbell? 8 to 10 yards off of the line of scrimmage. What? I know Desmond Ridder isn't the most accurate quarterback in the history of the world, but give him that kind of cushion to that guy. I think it's going to work. Probably 10 out of 10 times. And that's our great stand of a defense. I understand the arguments here, right? I've seen talk online about pick plays, and I've seen talk online about like, well, what do you want them to do? That was the call. It's not their fault. Bijan went out wide, and if Devondre was assigned to Bijan, then you go out. Okay, call timeout maybe to readjust, to Should maybe make Atlanta do something else? As I've been saying all along, what are my overall problems with the defense? The main problem that I have is that they allow the offense to dictate the way things go. And I know that there's always a grain of that to defense because you're backpedaling, you're not pressing forward. But still, in that situation, 3rd and 3, I also wanted zone in this game. And yet here we are, 3rd and 3. What do we do now? Now we're doing man. Come on, man. It's a very frustrating sequence. And this time it worked for Atlanta. And the problem is most of the time it works for the opposing offense. Next thing. Dropped interceptions. Jay Alexander dropped what probably would have been a pick six. Quay Walker dropped an interception. Now, I take issue with Devondre Campbell being 8 yards off on 3rd and 3, right? But that is probably the singular play all game long that I pin on the coordinator. Almost all of the other defensive deficiencies, I didn't hate his overall game plan. In fact, I thought it was pretty strong. But a lot of the other defensive deficiencies have to fall on the feet of the players, and dropped interceptions is certainly part of that. Joe Barry's game plan looks a lot better if they pick off Ridder 3 times instead of 1. And not only that, but let's talk a little bit more about Jaire, who had a god-awful game yesterday. According to some of the advanced stats out there, Desmond Ridder had a perfect QB rating when targeting Jaire Alexander. Perfect. Desmond Ridder, one of the more inaccurate quarterbacks in the NFL, who very much, just like Jordan Love, is kind of learning his way through this thing now that he's officially QB1 for Atlanta, and he gets a perfect QB rating when targeting Jaire Alexander. That is inexcusable. That cannot happen. Andy Herman has also been posting clips all day of Jaire Alexander making business decisions when it comes to the run game. He didn't exactly seem too interested in getting in there and mixing it up. This was a bad game for Jaire Alexander. And it goes to my point earlier about I want the ups and downs of the young guys. I fully expect it. But no one should be having to live through ups and downs to this extreme for Jaire right now. And the dropped interceptions, one by Jaire, one by Quay, are very emblematic of just the lack of execution, skill, whatever you want to call it, from the defense yesterday. One positive, though, Quay Walker had actually a really good game. Like, he was all over, consistently making his tackles. That was really nice. Let's talk about the next guy. How about A.J. Dillon? A.J. Dillon's like 250 pounds. And he doesn't use it to his benefit. That's the thing. Now, I talked last week about Dillon, and I was pretty critical of Dillon. And there was some thinking that maybe this week, being utilized as a workhorse back, getting more carries, may help him get that head of steam, may help get his engine rolling, may help get him going. No, not really. And I know, run blocking was not good yesterday by the offensive line. But specifically, late in the game, there was a 3rd and 1. And generally, if you're a 250-pound running back who's known for power, who's got nicknames of like Quad Father, Quadzilla, like it's your whole thing, it's your whole shtick, you best get 3rd and 1. Even if the blocking isn't great, you best get 3rd and 1. If you have a millisecond of time to punch through the hole and get a first down, you best get that first down. Instead, in that particular 3rd and 1, as well as many, many carries yesterday, A.J. Dillon got the ball, never really gained any type of acceleration or momentum, and then got to the first round of contact around the line, lost his footing, and went down. Now, I'm not going to pin blame on him. We know that the Elton Jenkins injury occurred on an A.J. Dillon carry. We know that it occurred when A.J. Dillon slammed into the back of his leg, partly because Dillon was losing his balance. I don't know if he needs more ankle exercises and less quad exercises, but whatever is going on, it's not enough to actually sustain balance and drive forward, which is kind of like his entire job description. It's very, very frustrating because there are still good carries in the game. And the watch party, we talked about it. Whenever there was a really good, like vintage AJ Dillon carry, we were quite happy about that. Even if it only got 3 yards, but if it just looked like vintage AJ Dillon, when he was closer to his rookie year, when he was closer to 2021. But that's not the guy he is consistently anymore. And I know the weather hasn't gotten cold. I know he gets better when it gets cold out. Like, I get it. But what's not okay is when your 250-pound running back gets a game to be the feature, to be the workhorse, and still gets brought down by arm tackles, or still seems to be intentionally trying to like dive through the offensive lineman's legs by like going underneath to get yards. Matt, what are you doing? You are 250 pounds. Act like it. AJ Dillon is really rendering me at a loss very quickly. And the thing too, I just want to throw this on here. This is separate, just a news item. I've seen a lot of talking today about, well, who's other running backs we can get? Let's go sign Kareem Hunt. Let's start up the Jonathan Taylor negotiations again. Let's call Washington about like Antonio Gibson or any team that's got more than one running back. Let's give them a call. We may be losing faith in AJ Dillon. However, I'm not sure the Packers are. Matt LaFleur said in his press conference today that they need to address schematically what they are doing with A.J. Dillon, believing that there's a deficiency there potentially. And yes, the run blocking does need to improve. There were several carries yesterday and last week that A.J. Dillon did not have enough of a lane to run in. Yes, completely, absolutely. But all of the negative points about Dillon still stand. And I would be shocked if the Packers just said, we don't think he's got it anymore either, and then went and orchestrated a trade for another running back. It just doesn't seem to be in the cards. I think if anything, they go get Gibson, I don't think they're going to do Kareem Hunt with the stuff going on off the field. Not current, but like what has happened. I'd be very surprised. But Gibson, I think it's to add a third running back, not necessarily to replace Dillon. Maybe I'm off on that, but that's where I am. Okay, the next one. Oh, Matt LaFleur. I don't get it, right? So last week in the first half, Anders Carlson attempted a 52-yard field goal, and it was good. In the preseason, outdoors, he attempted a 57-yard field goal, and it was good. And on both of those kicks, 52 and 57, he had significantly more distance, more leg to go. They would have been good for longer than 52 and 57. And then in the game yesterday, indoors, in perfect condition, mind you, in the first half, so just like last week, first half, we have a situation where it's a 51-yard field goal attempt. But as LaFleur said in the press conference today, Carlson, Whelan, they were too slow getting out there, and it led to a delay of game. Okay, so a few things. And then after the delay of game, they decided to punt instead of trying another field goal. Okay, all right, a couple of things. One, timeouts do exist, so you could have used one there, right? Because they were going to attempt the 51-yarder. So if you wanted to attempt the 51-yarder, take a timeout and then do the 51. That's why they're there, right? Okay. No, you don't want to burn a timeout that early in the game. Okay, fine. Delay of game, back them up 5 yards to the 56, which we know Carlson has the leg for. And so you back it up 5 yards, and now you're changing your entire thought process. Because now 51, yeah, we're trying that field goal. We're going to take the lead in this game. We're going to go up 3-0 right now. Back it up 5 yards, 56. Oh, no. Absolutely not. That's too long of a kick. And Matt LaFleur said as much in his post-game presser yesterday when he said it's a long kick. He said in today's press conference that they didn't want to give potentially that advantageous of a field position to the Atlanta Falcons. Bro, it's 5 yards. You're trying to put points on the board. I think it's worth the gamble to put points on the board when you know that your kicker has the leg strength to do it. This wasn't like NFL record like 65. No, it was 56, which Carlson's actually hit before. So either you have faith in him or you don't. At 51, you did, but at 56, you don't, even though you know it's within his realm. It's like it's like LaFleur either didn't think about it enough or thought about it too much and came to the wrong answer. Now, I did hear on John Kuhn's radio show this morning that Kuhn talked about how Carlson was having problems on that side of the field. He had missed a number of games, kicks pre-game. He was having difficulty figuring out the field. Okay, fine. That's fine. But you were going to try from 51. Like, that's the thing here. That's what I don't get. If Carlson wasn't hitting any kicks on that side of the field, you don't believe that it's going to go well. Okay. Then don't try the 51. If you believe the conditions aren't right, the Carlson's off, whatever, et cetera, then what are you doing trying the 51? Because then if Carlson misses that, and then that's revealed after game, congratulations, it looks like you made a wrong decision doing that too. Okay, so that means that you have faith that he's going to hit from 51. But you don't have faith that he's going to hit from 56? I'm really having problems here. This is, out of most of the things in this game, this is perchance the one that I'm having the most I know maybe their cutoff was 55. Like maybe in pregame they said like, he's good for anything under 55. It's going to be fine. Maybe, but it just seems when you're talking about getting points on the board and what is expected to be a close game, is the 5 yards of field position that important to you? Try to get points on the board. That's like the whole point of the game, right? And then the last negative. I don't know. I'm sorry. We're going long today. The game's still been bugging me all day. Tackling. Matt Steinman of The Athletic yesterday watched the game after the game last night. Poor glutton for punishment. And he posted that there were 21 missed tackles for the Green Bay Packers yesterday. 21. Now, I know when you're going against Bijan Robinson, and I talked about this on the watch party, look, you're going to have some. You just are. He's that good of a running back. He's going to wiggle. He's going to do his thing. He's going to get away from you. Okay? Like, you're going to have missed tackles. Not that many. And not from who it was coming from. Kenny Clark had a number of them. Devondre Campbell had a number of them, as did Rashawn Gary. Speaking of Rashawn Gary, the other thing that's kind of in the same line of thinking here, because tackling should be one of the most basic defensive things you could do at the NFL level, right? Supposedly they don't practice tackling all the time because the guy should already know how to do it by the time that they're making millions of dollars playing tackle football. But then they forget the tackle part and then they still make the money. And 21 missed tackles yesterday for the Green Bay Packers is just about the most basic thing you could fix. The other thing that you could do is stay in your assignment. If you're setting the edge, if that's your job, then set the freaking edge. Don't go chasing after the quarterback when he runs up in the middle of the pocket. Congratulations, you no longer have set the edge. It goes against the whole description of what you're supposed to do. Or if you're in zone coverage and your responsibility is to go closer to the sidelines, then don't follow the wide receiver who's cutting inside on a crosser so that a guy like Bijan can just finish off his sweep route or his wheel route and then just be wide open because we didn't feel like doing it. Or when a quarterback is running the option play or something, don't fall for a quarterback's fakes. The very frustrating thing is it felt like the game plan was overall pretty good. And yet the players said, we got it. We got it. It's going to be fine. And then they went out there and they did this I don't even want to say hyper aggressive because at times they weren't hyper aggressive, but they did this over pursuit all the time to where Desmond Ridder and Bijan Robinson were just eating it for lunch. I know the defense was gassed because the offense didn't do anything for them in the fourth quarter. Anything at all. The offense had no ability whatsoever to close out this game. And the defense was gassed. Yep. They were missing fakes. They were missing tackles well before they ran out of breath. This was just sloppy defensive play. There's nothing else to it. Sloppy. Every single one of all of these mistakes, every single one of these instances that I just rattled off, the big keys to the loss is really just a lack of execution, stupidity. And I'm not calling players stupid, okay? Don't take it that far. I'm not saying any of these individuals are stupid. What I'm saying is, in the heat of the moment, they made a bad choice. They made the stupid choice. Very smart people can make stupid choices. And mix all of that in with just a little bit of bad luck, and congratulations, you have yourself a loss in a game that you should have won. I'm going to round it out with the positive. Right, let's get happy. Jordan Love. Jordan Love's real, y'all. Sure, he performed well against Chicago defense. The Chicago defense ain't nothing. Okay, well, now he did against Atlanta. And I know his completion percentage isn't exactly where you want it yet. No, he's not throwing for 500 yards a game. They're also not giving him that many chances to throw for 500 yards a game. And completion percentage, you hope, would improve. But to be this far into the season, 2 weeks into the season, he has yet to play a game with Christian Watson. In the last game, he was missing both his left guard and his left tackle, and his star running back too. And he still is tied for the NFL lead in touchdown passes. He's first in the NFL in overall quarterback rating, and through 2 games has only had 2 turnover-worthy plays. The fumble last week and the one dropped interception by A.J. Terrell this week. 2 turnover-worthy plays. Neither one of them actually resulted in turnovers, compared to 6 touchdowns. No picks, and the number 1 quarterback rating in the NFL. You can say what you want about Chicago, but Atlanta's defense has talent up and down the roster. From Jesse Bates to Grady Jarrett, to A.J. Terrell, to Calais Campbell. I'm not saying they're the world's best defense. I'm not even saying they're top 5, but they are an above average defense. And Jordan Love continued to show why he's legit. And keep in mind, too, some of his best throws are probably some of the ones that didn't even wind up in the box score. How about that opening flea flicker that actually resulted in a pass interference, but was a really nice deep ball? Or the drop in the bucket into the end zone for Dontavian Wicks. Yes, A.J. Terrell did make a beautiful pass breakup. He got his hand in there. But that pass was very, dare I say, Aaron Rodgers-like in its trajectory of just kind of coming right on down for Wicks in the end zone. Love did some great work yesterday, and some of the greatest didn't even wind up in the box score. In spite of that, the box score is still, for quarterbacks, amongst the best in the NFL. We were expecting ups and downs from Jordan Love. Through 2 weeks, that's not the biggest waves we're seeing. We're seeing the biggest waves from players that we didn't think we'd have to be thinking about. And that is probably why they find themselves 1-1, not 2-0. Coming up Sunday is a big matchup against the Saints. They have a chance here in their home opener to go 2-1 and get the season realistically starting off better than a lot of people thought that it could. Join me on Wednesday as I recap the news of the week. What's going on? It's 2 days from now. We'll see what developments there are. Maybe we'll know about Jenkins. Maybe we'll know more about Bakhtiari. Maybe the Packers will make a trade. Who knows? I'll be here Wednesday to go over all of the news and notes. And then Friday, join me for the game preview of Packers versus Saints. And yeah, like I said in the watch party, sometime this week, I don't know, I got to figure out my life. Sometime this week, Claudia and I will be doing a Q&A, a live Q&A here on the YouTube channel, if that's where you're listening. Answering anybody's questions about the Green Bay Packers. I know this was a frustrating one, folks. And yeah, I just talked for several minutes about how frustrating this was. There is plenty of hope, too. And I don't mean to be overdramatic in week 2. But if the Green Bay Packers are going to go to the places that that I believe they are capable of doing, this can't happen again. Time to fix it. Time to go to work. Time to teach. And time to learn. Thanks so much for joining me here on the Lombardi Time Brews. And as always, go Pack Go.